Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest installment of the Indie Initiative from Insider Gaming. I'm your host, Mike Straw, and in this episode, I sit down with Benjamin Coquelle, a game designer and producer at Ishtar Games, the studio behind The Last Spell. The Last Spell is a roguelike tactical RPG with the tagline of "What if Final Fantasy Tactics and Dynasty Warriors had an illegitimate child?" Throughout the conversation, Ben and myself talk about the game being in early access for the past couple of years and how it's changed from then until its launch on March 9th, as well as other topics like any future plans for the series, the decision to make the game combination what it is, and the potential worry about overwhelming its players. So without any more delay, let's jump right into it, the Indie Initiative featuring The Last Spell. I'm happy to be joined now by game designer and producer at Ishtar Games of The Last Spell, Benjamin Coquelle. Ben, thank you for taking the time out of what I expect is a very busy time for you guys here to join me on the Indie Initiative.
Yeah, actually, as I was saying, it's a bit calm. We are ready and peaceful before the release, but yeah, it's calm before the storm.
So, right off the bat with The Last Spell, the first thing people see when they go to the website or they look at the game's tagline is, "What if Final Fantasy Tactics and Dynasty Warriors had an illegitimate daughter?" To me, that is something that immediately grabs your attention. But what led to that being kind of the brainchild of what this game is? A tactical RPG with roguelike elements, the procedurally generated areas and spawn waves and things like what you'd get in a Dynasty Warrior. What led to this kind of brainchild with the game?
So yeah, it was the first sentence our creative director told us this Final Fantasy cross Dynasty Warrior, and yeah, it was the idea to have a tactical RPG with hundreds of enemies, and yeah, it was never done before, and so yeah, and Mathieu, so our creative director, was playing a lot Battle Brother. I don't know if you know the game. It's
Yep.
a great tactical RPG with a lot of complex systems. And yeah, he wanted to make a tactical RPG. And he was like, okay, I really like Dynasty Warrior. Maybe we can try to impulse some systems into a tactical RPG. And yeah, roguelites our stuff. We really enjoy playing those games. So yeah, it was the starting point to this development.
So you brought up something it's never been done before. Is that a big reason why that direction? Because admittedly, there are indie games released, thousands of them upon thousands per year. You have to do something to stand out. Was this the kind of short and sweet, this is how we're going to stand out by taking these two types of games and putting them together into one?
Yeah, sure. Our philosophy of design here is to try to mix some unique genre. We like to mix things, and yeah, for us it was a great combo. We've never seen that, and we are like, let's give it a try. It's we don't know if it will work, but we will make some prototypes and test it a lot and make it work to have this unique combination of genre.
Now, it's been out in early access on Steam for almost 2 years now. It released on March 9th. For full transparency, we are recording this before March 9th, but the game launches in full March 9th for Steam, Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PS5. So over those couple years, obviously the game has grown. It has changed. What has been the biggest difference between what the game was, if you can pinpoint one thing, what the game was and what it ultimately became for version 1.0?
A very complex question here.
Very open-ended, I know.
Yeah. So a thing that's changed a lot is the progression in the game, because when the early access started, we had just one map, one level, and the goal was to make the game on this unique level, just to make several bosses and maybe make some more days to survive in this level. But after some discussion with the players and internally, we decided to make several maps, so several levels with all their unique boss, all their unique mechanics. And yeah, it was really a big decision, and it changed the game a lot.
The art style of the game is one that admittedly we are seeing, I don't want to say make a resurgence, but it is becoming ever more popular. When you're designing the characters and you're designing the level design and thing and the maps and everything, what is done as a team and as a studio to make sure that what they're seeing, what players are going to see, isn't something that they can see in 30 every other games? Because when you look at games like, say, MMOs, for example, you know every game is going to have a spider, a spider mob or a skeleton mob. Like every single one does, but they all make them different to at least stand out. For the last spell, what was that process kind of like?
Yeah, so you're right. The goal is to make something that the player knows and but different, and it has to be in our style. And for us, it was the corrupted style. Like we have a deadly mist that transforms every being into something corrupted, something yeah, really really monstrous. Um, so yeah, it's that we oh that's the thing we tried to make, like oh, what if a dog were corrupted, and our artist will just try to draw this for our bosses. For example, we had this idea of the Loch Ness monster because we have a town with a lake. And yeah, we will start to think, oh, maybe there is a monster in this lake, and yeah, it's corrupted by the mist. So now we try to draw this into our art style, and yeah, that's how I think we can stand out from other visual.
How, from a personal standpoint, as a professional standpoint, for you, the team around you, and everybody at the company, when you are in a game like this where everybody has this main goal, know what they want, there's still professional and personal growth that not many people who play games get to see. They don't see. A lot of people, wrongly, rightly, whatever they want to say, have this connotation that, I mean, at the end of the day, game developers are just code monkeys, drones that are just there writing code, not people. And my goal has always been to show the personal side of game development, and give people an insight. Like, these are people who, they have a passion for the art, they have a passion for what they're building, and they're at the end of, at the heart and soul, they're gamers just like all of us. Growth wise, though, for you, what have you been most proud of, whether you've seen somebody on the team or yourself, like just how you've improved over this time working on this game?
Yeah, that's also a great question and complex. Yeah, I think so. It's my first game as a professional. I was a student before that. And what I really like with our games is how systemic they are. So we are creating systems, and we are using them at 100%, even more, to make them really stand out, and try to have some emergent gameplay with that system. So we create systems and we see what people make with them. For example, that's why we took the intention to have a classless heroes. So we have there are no ranger or warrior, or every heroes can be everything. So you have to experiment, and yeah, that's thanks to our systems. So yeah, I think it's really taught me a lot about system in games, and why I love playing those games with a lot of
Yeah.
complex systems, and yeah, it can create a lot of emergent gameplay, and it's really cool to learn about this and to see how systems lives through the players who play the game. So yeah, I learned a lot about this, and how also to make a game like this, how to work during a production during 4 years, because as I said, I was a student, and yeah, in schools we only make a project that lasts 1 year, and yeah, working on the same project during 4 years and nearly five, it's really a tough experience, and you learn a lot of doing this.
Yeah, one thing I learned, so for a little side anecdote, one thing I learned in school, because I went and got my master's degree in computer science, and my main career is I'm a software developer as well, but I do more software application type of development. Uh, you learn so much more from actually in the weeds, being at a company working on something. But yeah, you brought up like school projects. Like, yeah, you're 1 year, one semester. Like, I think one of my first projects, I built a mobile auto insurance app. But that was 3 months of development, and you're like crunching, trying to make it. In that sense, you're trying to make it look nicer because you just rather than functionality. So you look at the schoolwork and things like that, and how things are different in a professional setting. When you have that big project, though, that you're working on a game, how do you find that balance as a developer, as a designer, as a team of features and functionality versus how it looks to the player? Like, there's obviously things that matter, like the front end presentation, the score, the art style, and things like that, but also the overall functionality is, if not more important. So how do you find that balance as a team?
Yeah. So that's one thing we kind of fail in this development. That's why it took us so long, because sometimes to see if it works, we had to do it 100% complete. So we had to do the art styles, the feedback, the VFX, and things like that. And yeah, we were doing some prototypes, and it helped us a lot, but sometimes we had to push more the quality to see if it's okay to play, because yeah, when you play with some gray cubes and yeah, there is no feedback, something like that, it's really tough to project yourself into the final game. So yeah, the balance is very complex to find, and I think we find it just when we were working during the early access, because we knew a lot about the game. Game development is about learning your game. You're learning how to make your game. And yeah, with our 2 years experience of development on the last spell, we learned a lot, and yeah, we were getting really good at doing the last spell. It's a little bit weird to say, but yeah, we know what is working in our systems. We know how to do the art. Yeah, we don't have question. We just do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think to find the balance is just to test a lot, and yeah, I think we missed that during the very beginning of the development. So yeah, now we are thinking for our next production to test a lot to just learn how to make the game, and after that continue.
So I obviously you admit to having those issues during the game's development, but at the end of the day, with the game out on Steam, it has very not mostly positive, not very positive reviews. Clearly, players are liking this. And that led to me, when I was doing research on the game and playing it, one of my thoughts with indie games, ambitious indie games, has always been worry about throwing too much at players with your game and kind of overwhelming them. Was that, we see the reviews, we see what players are saying, but was there ever a concern about maybe you guys were doing too much, or did that, if it did happen, did that kind of just go by the wayside once you saw the reaction to how things were going?
So yeah, our design philosophy is to make complex game and yeah, sometimes we just rely on the player intelligence. Like we are like, okay, we are making complex game. We just give them the info when they need it. We are not very good to make some classic tutorial like
Mhm.
Ubisoft, where you have pop-ups and yeah, you just take the end of the player and yeah, we don't do that. We are just launching the player into the game, like
Yeah.
play, and you will understand with your mistakes and yeah, it's sometimes when we speak with other game developers, they say we are crazy because we don't do so much tutorials, but our players like it, they like to understand the system, to try to understand the system, and I think we are giving the players all the info he need to understand our systems.
I mean, when it comes to the hand holding stuff, I'm personally not a fan of it. And not to compare to a big AAA blockbuster like the Dark Souls series and Elden Ring, but they're not games known for hand holding their players. They rely on a community and
Yeah,
tips. Granted, there's a lot of trolls on the tips that you find on the ground, which is hilarious, but they rely on a community to help other players get better. Is that kind of is that kind of something you're hoping to see from the
yeah,
community who
sure.
plays this game of like, no, we want our community to help each other. You want to build that sense of community with your players.
Yeah. It's right. That's it. We want our community to discuss a lot about the strategies of the game. Sometimes we see often we see on our Discord some new players coming in and asking questions to the experienced player, and they will always answer very kindly to the new players. It's great to see, and yeah. I think the last spell is a game where you want to discuss with other players the strategies and see if you actually understand well the systems. So yeah, we really tend to do this. But to difference us from software, we also like to be accessible,
Yeah.
and we make a lot of options. If you don't want to play a difficult game, you can lower the difficulty as you want. We made something a new system for this, a new easy mode during the early access, to make sure that if you want to play cool, just to chill on the game, you can just turn off a lot of difficulties just to enjoy the pixel art, the music, everything.
Sticking with the players and the feedback, how important, again, this seems like an obvious question. Of course, it's important, but how important or how impactful was the players' feedback throughout this early access period of the game on shaping what you guys ultimately released for version one?
Yeah, so every update we tried to include some community content, and usually we would mark them on our blog post for release, like, oh, this is a community feedback, thanks for giving us the ID. So there are a lot of quality of life in the game that are just players asking for them, and we didn't know that was something that could be in the game, and yeah, it was a great idea, so we just implement it, and after that there is the balancing of the game. Since it's a very systemic game, there are a lot of data in the game to balance. So we need to have feedback on this, and players really helped us a lot for that, especially on the production phase. We have a complex economy, and yeah, seeing all the strategies of players and yeah, seeing the discussion about this made the work to balance the game very more easy, I will say.
Yeah. I'll wrap it up. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to wrap it up with this overall, again, open ended question. but the game 1.0 is out.
Mhm.
As the game grows and you see the player base hopefully grow and continue to grow in the feedback, what is your hope personally, without taking in any consideration about the decisions, and what is your hope to see with The Last Spell as a game, maybe as a franchise? What are you hoping to see?
You mean for the release or just for the future?
For the future, yeah.
Yeah, I hope to see new players coming in every month, and yeah, the game we achieved to make the game live during the early access. Players discuss a lot about the game, and it's really great to see that on Discord, Reddit, Twitter, and yeah, I hope it will continue after the release during several months, maybe years. And yeah, it's really cool to see players discovering the game. So yeah, for the future, I want to see more players playing the game and and come to our community and discuss about the strategies and yeah.
And there you have it, everyone. The Last Spell is out now for Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5. You can pick it up now for $24.99. Go ahead. As someone who's played it, I highly recommend it. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time and joining me here today. Best of luck in everything, the future of the game and at Ishtar.
Yeah, thank you.